Abandoned Bottles by Brendan Bozeman. The mouse chewed weakly at a shard of wood sticking up from the table. It didn't know why it was doing this. It just chewed, in full view, on top of the table, and died. Sandra did not understand when she found it. Mice did not just die on the kitchen table. If a mouse was lucky enough to die of old age, it would be in a wall, and the only evidence of it would be the dank smell as it rotted. It must have lost its mind. She sat and stared at it. She heard a car come down the long gravel driveway and park. It was her son, Luke, who came up the porch stairs and into the kitchen. "What are you looking at, Mom?" "It's me, in another life," said Sandra. "I lost my mind and started chewing, right here, until my dying breath." "Mom, you've already lost your mind. Don't tell me this is another reincarnation story." "I can feel it." Luke put the bags of groceries on the counter, got a dustpan, and swept the mouse into it. Then he returned to throw it out. He unloaded the groceries, asking himself the same thing he had been wondering for some years. Why was she still alive? She was 98 and had not been the best owner of her body. She had put a lot of hard miles on it, all without changing the oil or checking the coolant. Luke was 82, and an old 82, so that he looked at least as old as she. He'd been taking care of her for years, and it was getting to be more than he could take. He did most of the chores, but his back ached and he didn't feel so energetic anymore. He had a helper, Caesar, do the heavy stuff, and there was a cleaning lady. But even something like getting groceries was getting to be too much. He should have a son to help him. But that was the other irony. He had had a family and even 2 grandchildren, but at one time or another, for one reason or another, each and every one of them had died. His sister and 2 brothers had died before they had children. Sandra's siblings had died along with their children, and so had her cousins. So they were the only 2 left. Sadly for her, it looked like Sandra was on track to outlast him, too. What does a woman think who has lost all those offspring and relatives, and then sees them all to the grave? Could there be a more pointless life? Maybe that's why she kept saying she had been some dying animal in the past life. That mouse had led a pointless existence. "Mom, do you want some tea?" "What? Do you want some tea?" "Yes, please. But please don't shout. I'm not deaf. I was just thinking about something else." He started the kettle and got some butter cookies out, got the cups ready, and then waited there while the water boiled, because that was easier than going to the table just to come all the way back again. Sandra said, "Caesar mowed the lawn." "I saw. I've decided he should clean out the garage. It would be better if he did it, because it's best not to know what gets thrown away. I'll mention it to him. Besides, I'll be dead soon, and then it will just be sitting there. Death for you is like the weather, Mom. You always talk about it, but you never do anything about it." They didn't need to laugh. The water boiled, so he poured it, waited, put in the cream, and then started the journey to the table. Circular waves appeared in the tan liquid as he carried the cups. He had to focus, but not think about it too much. If he did, he would start overcompensating for the shaking in his hands and spill them. It made him think of the time he had gone into the quote-unquote death wobble on his motorbike. Just a small overcompensation had sent him wobbling back and forth, more and more wildly as he tried to get back into a straight line, and inevitably crashed. It had put him in the hospital for 6 months. If he had died then, Sandra would already be all alone. His sister was still alive at that time, but anyway, that was a long time ago, just like everything else that had ever happened to him. He brought the cups in for a landing, a small amount sloshing over, but nothing bad. As they sat, they mentioned unremarkable things, like how the tea was good and that it felt nice going down. "I've ordered food tonight, Mom. I don't feel like cooking, and we're not eating SpaghettiOs." "That's awfully expensive." "Now's not the time to be frugal, Mom. You should have done that when you were 20. Or 16, he said, rubbing her age at the time of his birth in her face. "You're a strange boy, telling your mother she'd have been better off if she hadn't had him." "No, Mom, I'd be better off." He didn't really mean it. Their exchanges could be biting, but were not emotional. They just repeated conversations from the same menu because there was nothing else to talk about. Any observer would have thought the two were full of resentment, that they were just two axe heads lying on the ground to rust, never used for chopping, and too blunt anyhow. Luke fished his cell phone out of his pocket and said, "I'll call Caesar. Maybe he can start on the garage tomorrow." Dialing was laborious. His fingers kept pushing the buttons twice, so he had to keep starting over. The dinner came and they ate in front of the TV. Sandra fell asleep and Luke went to his room, which used to be the den, leaving the cleanup for tomorrow. His mother would get herself to bed when she was ready. Luke watched as Caesar took things out of the garage and put them in his pickup. Lots of old lamps, sporting equipment, an aquarium. It was ridiculous how much stuff had gotten packed in there over the years. Caesar started to open up a cardboard box that had been taped shut, but Luke said, "Just put it in the truck. If I can't remember what's in it, it must not be very important." He winked at Caesar. "You can open it later and take anything you want. Just don't do it in front of me." "I couldn't do that, Mr. Crenshaw." "Please, Caesar, don't be polite. Anything that's still closed, just take it away." A few minutes later, Caesar was carrying a box that was giving off clinking sounds. "Hey, are those bottles?" said Luke. Caesar tore open the top and nodded. "Perfect," said Luke. "Do me a favor and set them up in the backyard. I'm thinking about some target practice." "Sure thing, boss." There was a rifle range in the backyard. A steep slope served as the backstop, and there were boards at varying distances to put bottles and cans on. Caesar went to line them up. "Caesar, I'm going in for a nap. I'll practice with those later. But let me give you this." He got his wallet out and held out a few bills. Caesar looked at the money. "That's too much. I'm paying in advance." "You can give it to me tomorrow." "See there, Caesar, there's no guarantee I'll be here tomorrow." He winked again. "This will take a few afternoons." Caesar thanked him, and Luke went in. Luke felt fuzzy and groggy when he awoke, but also strangely energetic, like he'd had too much coffee. His arms felt a little weak, and he just didn't feel like cooking anything, so he rummaged for his cell phone and ordered food again. He went to the closet and got out his rifle and a 6-shooter. He holstered the pistol and carried the rifle and an ammo box. Outside, the bottles were set up neatly. There was a lawn chair out there, but he didn't shoot from that. There was a shooting rest, a high table where Luke could rest his arms, which felt like a sack of potatoes when he held the pistol up. It also let him simulate firing the rifle from a prone position without having to lie down and get all the way back up again. He used to shoot from the little firing shed off to the right. He loved that shed. It was good for riflery, but also for backyard camping trips for his kids. He loaded the rifle and took several shots. He was hitting about 50%, which he considered good. One bottle spun around without breaking, and he wished someone else could have been there to see it. He went to the lawn chair for a rest. The sun was nearing the horizon, and the strong late-afternoon rays glistened through the bottles. "Luke, what's for dinner?" Sandra was calling through the kitchen window. "I ordered out." "Again?" He went back to the shooting rest and fired the pistol at some bottles Caesar had set up closer than the others. The sound was deafening. The pistol was louder than the rifle anyway, but he realized he had forgotten his earmuffs. He was hitting no better than 15 or 20% with the pistol, which was not bad, but usually he could do better than that. He was getting a headache, and he wasn't sure if it was the noise or the frustration of not hitting the shots. He reloaded the rifle and fired off all the rounds several times. He said out loud and with annoyance, "God, I've still got 3 bottles, and I've fired enough rounds to send the Chinese back across the Yalu." The sound of gravel crunching got his attention. It was the delivery car coming up. It was pizza and wings. The driver tried to hand them to Luke, who said, "Take it in and leave it on the kitchen table. I'll pay you when you come out." The driver didn't understand him, so Luke waved his gun toward the kitchen door. The driver stepped back, and Luke realized he had scared him. That was just bad trigger discipline. "Sorry, just take it in," he said. The driver, seemingly not sure what he meant, took it to the front porch and left it on the top step. But then Sandra opened the door and let him in. Meanwhile, Luke fired off the rest of his rounds without hitting anything. The driver came back and told him how much it was, and Luke reached into his pocket to get his wallet. He had trouble opening the wallet for some reason. Then he realized it was because he hadn't holstered his pistol, so he was holding it and the wallet awkwardly as he tried to get to the money. The gun was pointing at the driver. The driver said, "Hey, mister, just forget it. I'll come back for the money another time." "No, wait, it's empty," said Luke. The driver ran to his car. He didn't turn the car around, but backed down the long driveway until it went out of sight. Luke's headache was fierce. He was angry. He went back to the shooting table and loaded again. He fired off all 6 rounds, missing on all of them, and tried again. Sandra called through the window, "Come in, Luke. I put plates out." "In a minute." As he reloaded, he dropped a round. "Damn," he said. He leaned down for the bullet, and when he stood up, he was reeling. He steadied himself on the shooting rest and then made his way into the lawn chair again and rubbed his eyes. He looked at the leftover bottles. They seemed proud, standing serene and unscathed. It started to feel like his head was going to split apart when he heard the crunch of tires again. This time it was the sheriff. Luke glanced toward him as he drove up. "Hi, Luke." "Hi, Bob. You all right?" "I'm okay." "That delivery driver said you were pointing your gun around. He said you looked unsteady on your feet." "No, I'm steady." "You don't sound so good." "I haven't been drunk in 30 years, you know that." Luke felt like his tongue was getting in the way of his words. "Have you been drinking?" Luke grunted. The sheriff started talking on his radio. Luke wasn't even making sounds as they got him into the ambulance. He just stared around, confused and frightened. They left without asking Sandra if she wanted to come. Sandra and the sheriff were standing in the yard. "I'll drive you in, Sandra. Let me put these guns away first." He took the guns and ammunition to the gun closet and came back out front. "You can sit in back, Sandra. Let me get the door." "No, Bob. I'll stay here." "Stay here? Don't you want to—" He trailed off when he saw her expression. He'd been in her class for the 1st grade, and he knew her stubborn face when he saw it. "Why won't you come?" "I've been in the hospital too many times, Bob. He'll be the last one if he doesn't make it. I can't bear to wait there in the waiting room. I've been there too many times already." "But Sandra, you can't stay here." "I can and I will. You just call me when it's all right or not. But I already know. He's not coming back." "I can't leave you alone, Sandra. Regulations." "I'll be okay. Please. I'll be here by the phone. Just call with the news." Bob watched as she turned and went inside. "Sandra, just call." She let the screen door slam behind her, and he could see her sit down at the kitchen table. He shouted, "Okay, I'll call, and I'll talk to my daughter. She'll come over later and spend the night." He drove away slowly, looking into the rearview mirror. Sandra sat at the table. The food was there, uneaten. So was Luke's pistol. She had gotten it from the closet again, along with one bullet, which was in the chamber. It sat in front of her, gleaming in the twilight. It was a beautiful gun, nickel-plated. She had bought it for Luke on his 50th birthday. Maybe there could have been another birthday for her, maybe two, if he lived. But without him, she knew there wouldn't be any more. If she were already 99, maybe she would hang in there for one last birthday, just for the sake of getting to 100. But going all the way through the rest of 98 and then all of 99, it wouldn't be worth it. Years had been slipping away faster and faster, but those, the 1.5 years, would be an eternity. She thought through all the years of her life that she could remember, and on the whole, she was proud of herself. The sorrows reappeared, but so did the joys. They counterbalanced each other perfectly, delicately. Perhaps that was best. If there were more sorrows, even by a single one, she would want to make things right, but there would be no way to do it. Not with no one to apologize to or call or see again. Her life would be unfinished. And if there were a single joy left over in surplus, she would want to hang on to it like an old doll. Then she would regret going. As it was, she didn't have too much or too little. Everything was right, and she could leave the same way she came in. She chuckled. If Luke were there, he would have made fun of her. "The only time you're happy is when you have a balanced checkbook," he would have said. She was proud that she did not cry. She could see the phone. If it rang, Luke would be all right. She stared at the gun. The twilight was giving in. She heard the sound of gravel crunching as tires sluggishly crawled up the driveway. It was a beautiful gun, still reflecting the soothing last rays of the sun.